Call the June 27th meeting of the Millcreek Township Board of Supervisors to order. And before we start with a pledge to the flag, we have with us tonight Boy Scout Troop 54 and Scoutmaster Mark Johnson, who are going to lead us in the pledge to the flag. Gentlemen, if you would come forward. Just line up here and face the flag and we'll join you.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Scott.
Thank you, guys.
And now the national anthem, right? No? Okay. And you're welcome to stay as long as you would like. This may be somewhat of a lengthy meeting, but if you're going to depart, you're welcome to do that also. Okay. Next, I'll call for public comment on agenda items other than those dealing with development or rezoning applications. Please. Come forward. Give us your name and address for the record, please.
Good evening. My name is Chuck Felix. I live at 2744 McKee Road. Today I'd like to talk about the recurring flooding problem we're having in the area of 28 feet. The township...
Mr. Felix, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I don't think that there's anything on the agenda. This was to deal with agenda items. No, not dealing with development or rezoning applications. If you would, because that may be somewhat of a lengthy discussion, so.
No problem.
All right. Okay, next we have, unless there's someone else, yes.
Good evening. My name is Richard Kerner. I reside at 273 South Portage Street, Westfield, New York. I serve as president of St. Nicholas Orthodox Church in Erie, and we're the owner of St. Nick's Grove. St. Nicholas Church has had its picnic grove for 50 years plus. We have rented that grove out for 40 years. And with this pending noise ordinance, I think the Millcreek Township has done its job to try to allay or mitigate any problems with the liquor authority. That said, it seems like the ordinance has some serious potential problems and difficulties that could pose for the township and certainly for St. Nick's Grove. We've tried to be a good neighbor for years. I don't know if it's been brought to the attention of the township that I think our characterization of our grove saying that there's all kinds of stags and drags may not be fair. We had 5 stags and drags this year of 16 rentals. We had 5 last year of 23. We also had last year a celebration of life for a woman who died of breast cancer. The family had a bluegrass band. I think that would be impacted by the ordinance unless there's a pre-approval granted. There's church groups, Christian and other denominations, an Islamic cultural center, a physician's practice. We donated the use of our grove on 2 occasions last year. One to a family who lost their son in a car accident. We did not take any revenue except for the dumpster fee. We also donated our grove to a person who had a rare form of cancer. The family wanted a fundraiser for them as well. Is their music not appropriate? Is there music above the decibel level? Perhaps. Family reunions, company picnics, other clubs, civic organizations. We provide a community service to the residents and the people here in Millcreek Township. The dilemma we face is that the decibel levels as stated in the ordinance are so low, the threshold is so low. I didn't know that. I don't profess to be an expert in sound, but I went to the National Institute of Health and I researched that and I found a listing of common lifestyle activities and the decibel levels. Normal conversation is 55 to 60 decibels. My guess is this microphone is probably 75 to 80. So right there, that would be a violation of the ordinance as it's written. Will we get pre-approval on many of our events at the Picnic Grove? I hope so, because as it stands, it sounds as if residents can cherry pick that which they complain. We're blessed to have the German Fest there every year, and the German Fest, as you well know, is there about 3 days, and they're probably the loudest. We're happy they are. They're festive. But that's the reason I got from talking to a neighbor and also some other people who said that maybe that's okay, that festive type of music. What's not festive about a bluegrass band? What's not festive about the family that wants to celebrate the life of their deceased member? What if the neighbor says, I don't like that kind of music? Perish the thought that they don't like Neil Young or Purple Rain. Maybe I do, maybe the neighbor doesn't. So those are the kinds of things that I think we would be impacted by and also affect our revenue, but also affect the ability for us to conduct our normal operation that we've been doing for 45 plus years there at the Grove. I'm also concerned for the township that it would also set you up for potential complaints, perhaps violations of constitutional law, perhaps how you choose what is acceptable and what is not acceptable. So with that, we hope that there's some reconsideration on that ordinance. We do want to be good neighbors. We have taken steps in the last couple of years, and in closing, I'll say this. We shortened the time that our picnics can be held. We shortened it from 10 to 9 p.m. We made sure that the speakers are facing away from the properties behind them. And we also put in our contract that there's no sexually explicit or lewd or crude lyrics to be played on those grounds. So I do have a handout. If you're inclined to take it, it is a copy of what was at the National Institute of Health, and be happy to share that with you.
If you could just leave it there at the table, and we will get it, and we appreciate that very much. Thank you.
And thank you for the time to speak.
Yes, Mr. Kerner, I can assure you that the Board of Supervisors, in consideration of the new noise ordinance that's going to be considered, has no intention whatsoever to impact whether it's your organization or anyone else's. That's not our intent. Our intent is to address some issues that have come to light more recently, not including the one that was raised, I don't know, a few weeks ago, a couple of meetings ago, in regard to noise from St. Nick's Grove. That had nothing to do with the consideration of this noise ordinance. But what we would like to do is take into account what you're going to be leaving for us, see if there are some fine tunings, if we need to do some fine tuning to the ordinance before we would take any action on it. And hopefully in 2 weeks, that was the plan to take action on the noise ordinance. In the meantime, we would be able to take into account what you're presenting to us. I think that we want to get this right. We don't want to create more problems than we already are facing. And we want to make sure that whatever we do is going to be to the benefit of the township.
Thank you, Mr. McGrath, and thank you, Mr. Groh. You've been kind to me as well, so appreciate all of you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I do want to clarify one issue. Mr. Kern brought up about a speaking voice being at 55 decibels. Well, the ordinance isn't about whether you and I have a conversation. It's whether or not the sound you and I are producing would be 55 decibels at the property line or at the property line of a neighbor 2 blocks down. So I just want to clarify that we're not saying you can't. Okay, just want to clarify that. The flushing toilet at the property line?
Your restrooms are at the property line.
Our restrooms are right at the property line. And if there's more than one...
They're not set back?
Well, there would be, I don't know. I would imagine that they're set back. I think that your comment was that they're close to the property line.
very easy to receive the decibels at 15 to 57 to 72, if that's what you're going to test at.
Mhm.
And we would be allowed.
Again, thank you for the, yes, Mark.
If I could, I think we're now looking at that ordinance or putting it up to a vote in not the next meeting, but the one following that we had talked about.
Okay, so
The 25th.
the evening meeting in July.
Right.
Gotcha. Okay. Anyone else? Sir? Now, Chuck, that was on the agenda. That's why we allowed the comments regarding the noise ordinance. There's a mention of the noise ordinance being considered.
I'll fill that out in a little bit. Name is Fred Huddle Jr., 1719 Brookside Drive, Millcreek Township. But I'm also representing the German Fest. And I would like to some answer to a question pertaining to what you consider as your exempt in your articles here. 4050, exemption 4052.
You are also referencing the noise ordinance, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, sir. I just want to find out if the pre-approved events and school and public activities, if that also includes, example, the German Fest, because it is a public activity. Would that include that in there?
We had that discussion today, as a matter of fact, and I'm going to refer to our solicitor, but that was in regard to the special event
Yeah,
permits,
the
correct?
idea is to roll both of these ordinances out at the same time with having a provision that under the special events permitting process, an event can kind of have its own noise levels determined through that permitting process as opposed to based on the ordinance. The public event language that you're referencing in the ordinance there is, we're in the process, frankly, of revising that because we concluded it was too broad. So it likely would not ultimately include the German Fest as a quote public event. That language will likely end up being publicly sponsored event, not public event.
Okay.
But there still would be a potential avenue under the special permit ordinance to have a kind of a event-specific, noise limitation.
Okay. So there, in other words, there's going to be some amendments to that particular?
Yes, and that's why part of the reason for the delay is, as we've gotten feedback in, we're
And
tinkering with stuff and making modifications to things.
Will
so.
there be another reading or another thing available?
It'll be up on the website again. The ordinance itself has not been officially publicly noticed. That will occur probably within a couple weeks of the July 25th meeting. But I would expect we would have something back up on the website, another revision maybe later this week or early next, is at least my goal.
All right. I also want to comment something that I just heard. I do want to invite everyone to come up to the German Fest and find out that we are not the loudest activity out there.
Okay. We don't need interaction.
I just wanted to
here,
interject that, get that in there.
but, I did not take that as a negative.
But we are not the loudest, but I'd like to invite everyone to come out there just to see what it is all about, as opposed to, and you'll find out that our German Fest does not run past 8 o'clock, public addressed or PA system wise. And generally by 10 o'clock, everything is shut down. So you'll find that we won't.
Been there lots of times. It's a great festival.
Thank you.
Let me just
I'd like to see the rest of them up there, though.
Yes. Let me just make a quick comment here, and by no means am I trying to get at any discussion here. We have to keep a couple things in mind. First of all, this ordinance is not intended ever to quiet down Millcreek Township. In other words, to make everything like it's a sleepy little hamlet. No. We're going to go around with our activities that we normally do, but within reasonable standards, using the reasonable person standard. You know, it's a matter of all of us being adults, being reasonable about what we find offensive as far as loudness, the volume of it. And that's really what it comes down to. It's going to take a lot of good judgment on those who are making the call, whether it's the person that is complaining or it is the police officer or zoning officer who may be responding to the call to find out.
One other question I do have. When you say your decibel level, is that at the immediate spot, or is that from property line to property line?
It depends on the nature of the issue. It would be at the property line of the source of the sound in certain circumstances. In other circumstances, it would be at the property line of the person who was making the complaint.
Who's made the complaint or something?
Yeah, so if it's somebody who's a block away, it's going to be based on what that sound is a block away.
But let's keep in mind that we're not the innovators on this noise ordinance. The legal firm has done much research. I don't know how many hours of work MIJB has done, but to find out, go across the state to see who has an effective ordinance, which ones have been challenged, which ones have not been.
Because it'd be a shame to have to lose something of that nature, or lose a...
But I don't think it would throw out the whole baby with the bathwater.
No.
I think it would just be that one provision.
Or
whatever it
lose
might
a
be.
site that has provided us years of availability.
Definitely not our intention.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Thank you, Fred.
Okay, moving on, we have the minutes. We have minutes from our June 13th meeting. If there are no additions or corrections, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move to approve the minutes from our June 13th meeting
I'll
as
second.
presented.
Mr. Groh?
I vote yes.
Mr. Morgan?
I vote yes.
I vote yes. Next, we have bills. We have bills, I think, 2 or 3 batches here from June 13th, June 17th, I think there's another one, June 23rd. If there are no additions or corrections to those, I'll entertain a motion.
Okay, I'll move to pay the bills.
I'll second.
Mr. Groh?
I vote yes.
Mr. Morgan?
I vote yes.
And I vote yes. And next on the agenda tonight, we are swearing in a new Millcreek Township police officer. We have with us tonight Katrina Morris. And Katrina attended Seneca High School and is a graduate of the University of Wollongong in Australia. She received her police training and certification from the Municipal Police Academy at the University of Mercyhurst University Northeast. Morris has prior police experience with the Northeast, Wesleyville, and Lake City Police Departments. And Katrina, if you would join me up front for the swearing in. I'll let you face the camera. And if you would repeat after me and raise your right hand. I, Katrina O. Morris,
I, Katrina O. Morris,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support, obey, and defend
that I will support, obey, and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of this Commonwealth,
and the Constitution of this Commonwealth,
and that I will discharge the duties of police officer
and that I will discharge the duties of police officer
in Millcreek Township, Erie County, with fidelity.
in Millcreek Township, Erie County, with fidelity.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Welcome. Chief, that brings our complement back to 63 officers. All right. Thank you, Chief. And we're going to, typically we have a reception for our new sworn-in police officers, but there will be a series of promotions in a couple of weeks, I believe it is, and we'll be doing the reception at that time. Thank you, Katrina. Thank you,
Thank
Chief.
you.
Okay. Next, we have a public hearing on land development and subdivision plans. The first is for Scott and Sarah Swift. This is a small subdivision plan to show the creation of a 6,300 square foot parcel A, which is to become an integral part of Erie County Tax Parcel 3340-138-9, located along the west line of Wilkins Road, south of Helen Street and Tract 282. Matt?
At the June 6th, 2017 Planning Commission meeting, Planning Commission recommended approval of this subdivision as it met the requirement that parcel A become an integral part of the neighboring parcel.
Okay, someone here to speak on behalf of this subdivision? If you could just come forward and give us your name and address, I'd appreciate it.
My name is Scott Swift, 1748 Wilkins Road.
Any questions from the board for Mr. Swift?
No.
And you understand the,
Yes.
well, the only condition was
45
a
for sure.
requirement. All right, anyone who would like to speak either on behalf of or in opposition to this subdivision plan? Okay, hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the subdivision plan as presented.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Grow?
I vote yes.
Mr. Morgan?
I vote yes.
And I vote yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have Harold K. and Gloria J. Morgan. This is a small subdivision plan to show the creation of a 7,184 square foot Lot 2B, which is to become an integral part of Erie County Tax Parcel 33-118-466-39, located along the west line of Niemeyer Road, south of Glen Ridge Road, and Tract 343. Mr. Waldinger.
At the June 6th Planning Commission meeting, the Planning Commission recommended approval of the subdivision as the new parcel 2B is becoming an integral part of the adjoining parcel.
Thank you. And Mr. Morgan?
Mr. Chairman, I'd just like to disclose that Mr. and Mrs. Morgan are my parents, so I'll be abstaining from any discussion and voting on this agenda item.
Thank you. Someone here to speak on behalf of the subdivision plan? If we could have your name and address for the record, please.
Name is Harold Morgan. I reside at 5354 Niemeyer Road, and I'm hoping to sell this parcel with your approval to a Miss Carly Smith, who resides at 5344 Niemeyer Road, Millcreek Township.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Morgan, John? All right, stand by. We'll see if anyone else has any comments. Anyone else who would like to speak either on behalf of or in opposition to this subdivision plan? Okay. Hearing none,
I'll make a motion to approve this as presented.
I will second that. Mr. Grow?
I vote yes.
And I'll vote yes. And Mr. Morgan, you are abstaining.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Council.
Thank you. Okay, next we have Dollar General Retail Store. This is a land development plan to show a proposed 9,100 square foot retail building with associated sidewalks, parking areas, and stormwater management facilities located at the northwest corner of Wattsburg Road and East Gore Road in Tract 339 and the South Gore Tract. Matt.
The June 6th, 2017 Planning Commission meeting, the Planning Commission recommended approval of this land development. I would just like to recommend the board, or remind the board that approval of this and every other land development includes that the development meets all requirements as far as stormwater controls before it is released for recording.
So there was some question, I guess, raised at the Planning Commission meeting regarding stormwater management?
It was not, it has been since the Planning Commission meeting.
Oh, okay.
Greenman Peterson, our contracted third-party stormwater review engineer, raised some questions with the plan. It is being worked out with the developer at this time. The plan will not be released until an approved stormwater management plan has been submitted and approved by the board.
So this would not be even, if it gets approved, it wouldn't be a conditional approval because it's a requirement no matter what?
Correct.
Gotcha. Okay, someone here to speak on behalf of the land development plan for the Dollar General store. We could have your name and address for the record, please.
Yes, sir. My name is Mike Lasitis. I'm with Stackback Engineering. Our address is 279 North Zinsmell Road in Lebanon, PA, 17042.
If I could interrupt 1 second, if you wouldn't mind when you're done, if you could put your name and address on that clipboard.
Sure.
It makes Cheryl's life a lot easier.
Absolutely.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
As you stated, some issues had been brought up in the meantime. I'm not sure if there's any questions or you'd like to discuss any of that. One involved an easement from the spillway that Solicitor Shaw had brought up, and that's something we can do. The seller is the adjacent property owner as well, so that's something we can certainly work.
And that's
out.
all in reference to the stormwater management plan?
Correct.
Okay.
It's related.
Yeah,
Okay.
there's the emergency spillway for the storm retention pond directs the water to the adjacent parcel, and we thought it made sense to ensure that there's an easement in place to receive that water so that there wasn't a problem down in the future.
Okay.
And also related to that, we are requesting a waiver of section 116-24I, which relates to the location of the stormwater facility itself with the property line.
Were you aware of that, Matt?
Yeah, that was reviewed by the zoning department, and Chuck Pierce approved that, that it was close to the road, but it's allowed to be within the buffer.
Okay, and that, Attorney Shaw, that is, the Board of Supervisors are able to waive that requirement, is that correct?
Are you indicating that a waiver is not needed because it's allowed to be in the buffer?
Correct, yes, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
So no
All right.
waivers
So
needed.
there is no waiver required, okay. All right. Any questions from the board?
That was clarified. That's where I was going with my questions. so,
Okay.
sorry. Yeah. Okay.
All right. Anyone else to speak either on behalf of or in opposition to this land development plan for the Dollar General store? Okay, hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move to approve this land development plan for Dollar General over at Wattsburg Road and East Gore.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Gore, Mr. Grow,
I vote yes.
Mr. Morgan?
I vote yes.
And I vote yes. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
And next, we have Larson Text's office building. This is a land development plan to show a proposed 4-story office building having 8,400 square foot footprint with associated sidewalks, parking, and stormwater management facilities located along the north line of Norcross Road, east of Shrimper Road, and Tract 338. Mr. Waldinger.
At the June 6th, 2017 Planning Commission meeting, the Planning Commission recommended approval with the following requirement: that the existing floodplain, FEMA floodplain, be shown and labeled on the Mylar, and with the following request: a traffic signal contribution of $10,000 for the intersection of Norcross Road and Conrad Road.
Okay. Someone here to speak on behalf of the Larson Text land development plan. If we could have your name and address, and before you leave, if you could sign in on the clipboard there.
My name is David Harrington. I live at 702 Aspen Way, Edinburgh, Pennsylvania. I'm here to represent Urban Engineers at 1319 Sassafras Street, Erie, PA. I think we submitted a revised land development plan that shows the floodway boundary, and we also were able to provide the $10,000 traffic
Contribution.
fee.
So since the planning commission meeting, a revised plan has been submitted?
I believe we got a paper copy. Did we get a Mylar as well?
I believe Tim Pulaski dropped the paper copy off. I'm not sure if he dropped a Mylar copy off.
Okay, yeah, we'll need the Mylar for recording prior to.
Okay.
All right, well then we'll leave that as a condition just to make sure we're covered.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Any questions from the board?
Not from me. I'm glad to see them expanding.
Yes.
Remember, that was an old school, great reuse of that school there. So it's nice to see them expanding, more jobs, I hope, too. So, good sign.
Okay, anyone else to speak either on behalf of or in opposition to the land development plan? Okay, hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move to approve this land development plan for the Larson text as presented.
I'll second.
Mr. Grove?
I vote yes.
Mr. Morgan?
I vote yes.
And before I vote, I will vote yes, but before I vote, I want to make sure that you thank Larson Tex for the traffic signal contribution. We appreciate that.
Sure will.
And I'll vote yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have Rock Golf Realty, small subdivision plan to show the creation of a 1.424 acre Lot A and a 1.018 acre Lot B located along the west line of Grubb Road, just north of Hershey Road and Tract 353. I'll hear from you first, Matt, if you want to, and then we're going to go on and move on to the agreement before we take any more.
Yeah, well, at the June 6, 2017 Planning Commission meeting, the supervisor, or the Planning Commission recommended approval of the subdivision with the requirement that Rock Golf Realty provide an amended agreement with the township regarding open space at Whispering Woods Golf Course.
Okay, and we have that agreement?
We do have that agreement, yes.
And that's been reviewed by council?
Yes.
Okay. And before we vote on, Mark, this is the correct order, we should move on the agreement before we vote?
Yes.
Okay. Then on our agenda, we're going to jump ahead to number 16, where you will see it says Whispering Woods Golf Course Proposed Subdivision Agreement. That is the agreement that Mr. Waldinger was just referencing. And Cheryl, we don't have a copy of that though, do we? Or do we? But as long as our solicitor has seen it and
Yeah, we reviewed it
is comfortable with it?
with counsel for Rock
Golf?
Rock Golf.
Okay.
And worked with Matt on getting that finalized, so I think everyone was in agreement with the terms of that, which essentially, there was a prior agreement that limited or restricted the use of
Golf course property?
golf course property, and that was amended to allow for these two lots to be subdivided.
So this was more or less an agreement between the property owner and the homeowners association?
No, it was an agreement solely between the property owner and the township. So the homeowners association was not involved at all
Okay.
in this agreement, and we did double check to ensure that there was no tie-in with any homeowners
Okay.
association and stuff, and there does not appear to be.
All right.
So it was simply a condition that was imposed, I think, when the golf course was originally developed, as a set-aside of a certain amount of acreage, and as I understand it, the lot numbers and so forth are still in compliance with that original subdivision plan, and so adding these two lots doesn't create any other issues.
The basis for the agreement was so that the density did not exceed a certain number, correct?
To preserve the density of the overall development.
Do you remember what that number was?
334, I want to say, total units in the entire Whispering Woods development.
That's what the maximum was?
That was the maximum.
And where are they?
They're now at 316 potential approved. This would
Potential,
bring
so
them
that
to
would be maximum
318.
build-out?
Correct.
Okay, so even with maximum build-out, there would still be significantly less than what was
Correct.
the basis for the maximum number, okay? All right, then, what I would do is entertain a motion regarding the agreement between the township and Whispering Woods Golf Course.
Okay.
That would be number 16 on the agenda.
Okay. I'll make a motion to approve that agreement pursuant to the advice of the legal counsel.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Grove?
I vote yes.
Mr. Morgan?
I vote yes.
And I vote yes. Okay, now we'll go back to the actual subdivision plan, and if there's someone here representing the subdivision.
Hello, Rich Rocky, 4647 Meadowbrook Drive, representing Whispering Woods Golf Club, 7214 Grubb Road.
Okay, any questions from the board regarding the subdivision? This is two lots being subdivided from what would be the golf course property, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Is there any planned use for that, Rich? I mean, or just...
Actually, to be honest with you,
Just curious.
what I'm trying to do at this point is to have it reappraised, and getting all my ducks in a row,
Yeah.
so to say, so to speak. This way here, basically looking to get reappraised, not necessarily ever getting rid of these lots. They may always look like that 20, 30 years down the road, but to be able to get a little bit more income for a clubhouse, which in turn would get more tax revenue.
Just curious.
Yeah, that's kind
If you
of
had any
what
immediate use
I'm
for
looking
it.
to do with all
And
of
these
it.
both front on Hershey Road, correct?
Grub
Oh, Grub Road, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
Grub Road.
Yes, Grub Road, right where Hershey comes out.
Okay, so there would not be any additional traffic through Whispering Woods subdivision?
No, there's,
Okay.
it would not be.
No access to the subdivision?
Correct.
Okay. Any other questions? Anyone else to speak either on behalf of or in opposition to the subdivision plan? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve that subdivision plan for Whispering Woods Golf Course.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Grow?
I vote yes.
Mr. Morgan?
I vote yes.
And I vote yes.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next we have number 8 on the agenda, referral to the Planning Commission of a petition requesting a change in zoning classification. This is for Ryan G. Molly, for property located at 4806 and 4812 West Ridge Road, now zoned Rural Residential District and I-1 Light Industrial District, asking for a change of classification to C2 General Commercial District. Is there a motion to refer this to the Planning Commission for consideration?
Yeah, I'll move to refer that over to the Planning Commission for their next meeting.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Grow?
I vote yes.
Mr. Morgan?
I vote yes.
And I vote yes. Next, we have also referral to the Planning Commission, a request for change in zoning classification for Mikhail and Yelena Koloshenko for property located on the east side of the 6100 block of Perry Highway, now zoned Rural Residential District, asking for a change of classification to R4 High Density Residential District. Is there a motion to refer this to the Planning Commission?
Yeah, I'll make a motion.
Yes, the Planning Commission, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to refer this over to the Planning Commission, their next meeting.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Grow?
Vote yes.
Mr. Morgan?
I vote yes.
And I vote yes. Okay, next we have bids and quotations received. The first is for the sidewalk accessibility project, Phase 5, and I'll refer back to Mr. Waldinger.
Bids for this project were opened at 3 p.m. on June 15th, 2017. Community Development Block Grant funding will be used for this project. The project has been reviewed by Erie County Planning as well as Millcreek Engineering to make sure that all the bids met the requirements. The Engineering Department recommends approving the Millcreek Township Sidewalk Accessibility Project, Phase 5, to Vavala Concrete Construction LLC for a total contract amount of $122,888.
And we did receive 4 bids, I believe.
Yes, 4 bids.
Amendola Development, $150,390. Empire Construction, $125,250. Mayer Brothers Construction, $249,000. And Vavala was the $122,888 that you mentioned.
Correct.
And it's the engineering department's recommendation that Vavala.
Yes, Vavala has worked on a couple other phases of this project and done very good work for the township.
Okay. Is there a motion to that effect?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve that contract bid award to Vavala Construction for that phase, Phase 5 of the accessibility sidewalks.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Grow?
I vote yes.
Mr. Morgan?
I vote yes.
And I vote yes. Next, we have from Dick Whitbread, request to purchase line paint for the traffic department. Dick sends us the quote from NS Paint Incorporated. This is a CoStar's contract number 46000015792. And Dick would like to purchase 1,375 gallons of white paint, 1,375 gallons of yellow, and 2,000 pounds of the reflective beads. The total cost for this purchase would be $20,986.25, and I'll move approval of that purchase.
Okay, I'll second that.
Mr. Grow?
I vote yes.
Mr. Morgan?
I vote yes.
And I vote yes. Also from Mr. Whitbread, we would like to purchase traffic signs. He received quotes from Custom Products Corporation. This is primarily for stop signs and speed limit signs, although there are small quantities of other signs like no through traffic, stop here on red, no turn on red, things like that. From Custom Products Corporation, the quote was $4,273.56. From U.S. Municipal, $4,613.90. And from trafficsigns.com, $6,731.33. It's Mr. Whitbread's recommendation that the purchase be made through Custom Products, and I'll move approval of that.
Okay, and I'll second that one.
Mr. Grow?
I vote yes.
Mr. Morgan?
I vote yes.
And I vote yes. And finally, from our Public Works Director, Gary Snyder, he would like to have a storm sewer line, a storm sewer system relined. This is for 250 feet of 24-inch storm sewer pipe on West Street. This would be through Insight Pipe Company, and it is through a CoStar's contract number 16. The quote for the work is $24,412.50, and this is to avoid having to rip up the line and install a new one. And I'm going to refer quickly to Mark. This was in the budget?
Yeah. Yes, we had $100,000 worth of storm sewer repairs, not specifically defined in the capital budget, so this would be part of that.
Okay, this would fall in that category. Okay. I would move approval of that pipe rehabilitation project.
I'll second that. Definitely needed.
Mr. Grow?
I vote yes.
Mr. Morgan?
I vote yes.
And I vote yes. Next, we have proposed ordinance 2017-12. This was tabled from our June 13th meeting. This is an ordinance of the Township of Millcreek, Erie County, Pennsylvania, prohibiting the parking or standing of vehicles along the right-of-way of both sides of Amherst Road from 50 feet south of the center line of Mary Lee Drive and Amherst Road to 545 feet north of the center line of Mary Lee Drive and Amherst Road. And since our engineer, Mr. Morris, is not with us tonight, but Mr. Grow, I know that you recently attended a meeting on site.
I was at a meeting up there earlier tonight at about 5:30 with the neighbors, Ann Sokol, assistant engineer, and Captain Tony Chimera?
No, not a captain.
Anti-captain, I'm sorry. Tony Chimera from our traffic division, I'm sorry. I gave him an elevation there. He'll be happy to hear that one.
I believe he's a sergeant. But I'm not
He's a
positive.
sergeant, I'm
Okay.
sorry. I got everything on my mind. Anyway, we met with the neighbors up there, and of course, Mr. Morris was not available to another, he had a conflict in the schedule. I'm going to ask that if we can table this to our next meeting so that we can have Rick give more. I know he gave some information the last time we were here, but I'd like to have Rick's comments on the record, all the scientific data that he had compiled on this matter here. So it doesn't mean we're going to back off of this matter. It just means I want to make sure this is on the record. So,
Okay.
my action is my request is to make a table on this one, if we could.
All right. Is there a second to that? No. And I understand the hesitancy to table this. This should be a simple project. I would like to see, I suppose I would like to be able to ask Mr. Morris some questions about this, because there may be another alternative. And as I stated in some exchanges of emails earlier today, this is an issue that was actually raised due to what would be, I would term, a neighborhood dispute that elevated to having to do an engineering study. And I would hope that we can reach a simple resolution to this. And so I will second the motion to table this, and hopefully at our next meeting, we will be able to have Mr. Morris answer a few more detailed questions about this proposed ordinance. Mr. Grow?
I vote yes.
Mr. Morgan?
I vote no, Chairman.
And I will vote yes to table this until our July 11th meeting. Okay, we have, as we mentioned earlier, some proposed ordinances that will be considered shortly by the Board of Supervisors. The first is an amendment to the zoning ordinance, and this is in regard to the rezoning of 5942 Peach Street. Was that last meeting when we?
I think it was 2 meetings ago.
meetings ago.
Both that one and the next one on 2315, 2401 West 12th Street. We were waiting for some additional deed description information that we needed to finish up the ordinance, so that should be ready, I believe, for the next meeting.
Okay, and that'll be the formalization of earlier action.
Correct.
Okay, and we also have, as we mentioned earlier, proposed ordinance 2017-15, that's the noise ordinance, which according to Attorney Shaw would be on the 25th?
Correct.
And we expect to have the special events ordinance at the same time?
Correct.
Okay. And as ASAP, we'll get those posted on our website. I believe that the noise ordinance is there now.
Yeah, the first draft of the noise ordinance is up there now. That I suspect
There may
will
be some
change.
changes.
We've not put a first draft yet of the special events ordinances. That's still going under some significant changes.
Okay. Next, we have a public hearing on intermunicipal liquor license transfers. The first is Resolution 2017 R24. This is a resolution of the Township of Millcreek, County of Erie, Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, approving the intermunicipal transfer of restaurant liquor license number R8530 into the Township of Millcreek from the City of Erie. And we are required by the state to have a public hearing whenever a liquor license is transferred into the municipality. The first one, from what I can see, is being transferred from the City of Erie to a new restaurant at the West Erie Plaza. And I think what is standard, Mark, if I'm correct me if I'm wrong here, is we would accept any testimony from the
Yes, I
public?
think first we should take testimony from the party submitting the application.
Okay.
And then
The public?
any testimony from the public.
Okay, so if there's someone here representing the entity that would like to transfer the liquor license, if we could have your name and address, please.
My name is Jeremy Toman. I'm from the Knox Law Firm. Address is 120 West 10th Street, Erie, PA.
Was I correct in assuming that this is a transfer from the commercial business in the City of Erie?
Yeah, it's the former Puffer Belly restaurant.
Okay, and it's going to be utilized at a new restaurant in the West Erie Plaza?
Correct.
Okay.
The Cork, right?
The Cork, yeah. So I don't know if any of you are familiar with the Cork restaurants. It's in Northeast. Our client is the owner-operator, has operated that restaurant for the last 3 years successfully, has had no issues with any concerns with the liquor license. And so simply he's just looking to expand his business into Millcreek.
So they're not closing the
No.
Northeast, okay, it's a
Correct.
second location.
Right.
Okay.
And then we've contacted some of the neighbors. The neighbor directly to the west is Villa Maria Erie Prep, and we have a letter of support from them. I can leave a copy with you. I'm not sure if you received a copy previously, but I'll leave that here.
Okay. Any questions from the board? All right, if we could have your name on the clipboard there, we'd
And
appreciate that.
If you have a copy of the letter, please provide it to Cheryl.
It's good to see the West Erie Plaza being redeveloped.
And good to see it filling up.
Filling up there, and this is a
With
good restaurant to have in there. too.
Quality tenants.
Yes.
Anyone else from the public who would like to either speak on behalf of or in opposition to Resolution 2017 R24, the transfer of the liquor license? Okay, hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 2017 R24, thus relocating liquor license to the West Erie Plaza.
Is there a second?
I will second.
Mr. Grow?
I vote yes.
Mr. Morgan?
I vote yes.
And I vote yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
And next we have Resolution 2017 R25. This is a resolution of the Township of Millcreek, County of Erie, Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, approving the intermunicipal transfer of restaurant liquor license number R8368 into the Township of Millcreek from the City of Erie. And from what I can determine from the resolution, this is transferring a license from the City of Erie to the restaurant at 32nd and Pittsburgh Avenue, which I believe is Golden Walk. Okay.
Good food.
Someone to speak on behalf of the transfer of the liquor license? If we could have your name and address for the record, and before you leave, if you sign in, please.
Gentlemen, I'm Kurt Sundberg with the Marshoff Law Firm, 300 State Street, Suite 300, Erie, PA 16507. I have Wen Lin, who's the principal owner of the Golden Walk restaurant and the Golden Lin, which is the lounge that we associate with it. Again, this is a request to transfer a liquor license from the City of Erie into Millcreek Township to be used in association with the Golden Walk restaurant, which is at 3202 Pittsburgh Avenue. The proposal is to build a lounge and open a wall between the restaurant and the lounge area. I guess a similar lounge would be something like Serafini's restaurant, like kind of that idea, that would be connected to the restaurant and can serve beer, wine, and liquor there. As you know, the Golden Walk restaurant has been there for 12 or 13 years. It's a family-style restaurant. They've actually been a BYOB establishment for approximately 2 years without any incident whatsoever. There's not any schools nearby. There's no churches nearby. We anticipate creating 5 to 10 new jobs with this expansion. Standard support staff like bartenders, waitresses, waiters, that type of thing. The hours of this restaurant are from 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. on Sundays through Thursdays. Weekends, which is Fridays and Saturdays, the hours are 11 a.m. to 10:30 p.m. So those hours will stay the same, so there won't be any late hours of service of alcohol. It's going to correspond with the restaurant. Wen Lin is here, who is again the principal owner. If the supervisors have any questions or concerns, but again, we're requesting that this liquor license be moved from the City of Erie to Millcreek Town.
I just have maybe one quick question. What's in the building now? Are you expanding into an unused portion of the building?
Yeah, the Golden Walk right now is address is 3202-0406. So we be next door is 3208. So we be expand for that one.
Okay.
We'll connect together for whole restaurant.
Is that the former dog grooming place there?
Yeah, that's correct.
And Spiegel? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So would you then be occupying that whole building?
We still have another one. Is a new shop store. I don't do anything yet. So
Okay.
we just do it from the Golden Walk to 3208.
Gotcha.
Nothing yet.
Not yet.
Keyword yet. Okay. Do they know that? If they're watching this, they will.
They do now.
Yes. Okay, any other questions?
None for me.
All right. Thank you. Anyone else to either speak on behalf of or in opposition to the liquor license transfer? I'll entertain a motion regarding Resolution 2017-R25.
I'll move to approve Resolution 2017 R25, transferring the liquor license to the Golden Walk, 32nd and Pittsburgh Avenue.
Is there a second?
I will second.
Mr. Grove?
I vote yes.
Mr. Morgan?
I vote yes.
And I vote yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have a proposed resolution 2017-R26. This is a resolution approving Millcreek Township's fiscal year 2017 action plan requesting CDBG financial assistance. CDBG is Community Development Block Grant, financial assistance from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. Although it's not specified as part of our action, well, I'll tell you what, that would be two separate actions, wouldn't it, Cheryl, as far as the, I guess, voiding of the agreement with Hands? Okay, this is in regard to the 2017 CDBG funding, and which I believe is, and I'll find it here, $232,244. Thank you, John. Is there a motion regarding resolution 2017 R26?
I'll move we approve resolution 2017 R26.
I'll second that.
And just for curiosity's sake, this is $1,776 less than last year's allocation. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Mr. Groh?
I vote yes.
Mr. Morgan?
I vote yes.
And I vote yes. And Mr. Solicitor, this was not on the agenda. However, we received word from Erie County Planning, Joe Burtis, that he would like to have the township approve the, I guess it's cancellation of, is that correct, Cheryl, of the agreement? I believe that's the way he termed, yes, termination of the agreement. This would be the agreement between Hands and the township, where we allowed Hands to utilize $11,000 of our community development block grant money in 2016 for the acquisition of the former Pleasant Ridge East. And since that project fell through, Mr. Burtis is suggesting that we terminate that agreement, although we received word today that $3,300 of the $11,000 was expended early on in the process by Hands for that prospective purchase. So what we would be doing is reallocating $7,700 back into our CDBG funding for use for reprogramming at a later date. So I would move that we...
Mr. Chairman, can
yes.
I have a question?
Yes.
This is the first I've been aware of this. Has anyone from the township contacted Hands to discuss this with them directly? Or as Joe Burtis indicated in his email chains, he's had discussions with Hands regarding this project?
Yes, and I'm sorry that this just came in. Otherwise, as a matter of fact, it came in this morning. Mr. Burtis was in contact with Hands. Hands was unable to utilize the money for the acquisition of the Pleasant Ridge Manor East. So it's Mr. Burtis's suggestion that we reallocate that money. In order to do so, we would have to terminate the original agreement with Hands in order to utilize that, the balance of the $11,000. The $11,000 was the original amount set aside in the 2016 CDBG plan.
Right, but my understanding is those funds weren't tied specifically to that piece of property. So that's what I'm wondering is did Hands confirm they're no longer interested in studying for a site acquisition in Millcreek Township, or is Mr. Burtis just recommending it because it wasn't spent last year for that particular project?
I can let you know what, and again, I apologize, this should have gone to everyone, but I didn't get it very timely. Mr. Burtis said that he had spoke with Matthew Good and Chuck Scalise of Hands yesterday regarding termination of the contract, and they indicated that they in fact did some work on the project effort, even though the ultimate objective will not be achieved as the deal with the county for Pleasant Ridge East fell through. Per the attached invoice, they incurred total costs of $3,300. There will be $7,700 which will need to reprogram, which we will need to reprogram at a later date. So I get the indication that he did have a discussion with Mr. Good and Mr. Scalise in regard to that money. Are you questioning whether or not they are willing participants in the termination?
To me, that language is, I'm not comfortable with that language is clear enough. I'd be more comfortable if we had confirmation from Hands if we're terminating agreement with them without having direct It's our contract with Hands.
Correct.
Everyone comfortable if
And-
Mr. Waldinger would reach out to them directly and confirm?
Yeah, all that we have from Hands is the invoice.
The other thing, Chairman McGrath, is I'd probably like to see the agreement with Hands to make sure there's nothing in there that.
Early termination?
Yeah, or that creates a problem by doing it.
Okay.
And, maybe there needs to be some type of formal amendment of that to terminate it.
This is not, there are no time restraints on this
Yeah,
whatsoever,
I mean,
so delaying it for 2 weeks is not
I
going to
think
be a
it makes
problem.
sense just to make sure the i's are dotted and t's are crossed here.
Okay.
And we don't need to table it?
We don't have to
because it
table it
wasn't
because it
on
wasn't on the agenda.
Correct.
Okay, that was easy. Okay, next we have, and we did vote on that resolution, correct, Cheryl? Okay. Proposed resolution 2017 R27. This is a resolution pursuant to resolution 2015 R20 and the Municipal Records Manual to approve proposed disposition of certain township records. And as is the usual case, I'll refer to Mark in regard to this.
Once again, this is the apparently monthly disposal of police records because they weren't relevant to anything, and they just take up space. So, and they're not required to be held for any specific length of time if they're not, part of an investigation.
And this is a list that's supplied to you by the chief?
Yes.
Okay. All right, is there a motion in regard to 2017 R27?
I'll move to approve resolution 2017 R27 for the disposal of the records indicated on the document.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Grow?
Vote yes.
Mr. Morgan?
I vote yes.
And I vote yes. And we have already accomplished number 16 on the agenda. We'll move on to number 17, consideration of settlement for Granada Apartments, and I'll refer to our solicitor.
Thank you. We're recommending that the township enter into a consent assessment and agreement with Granada Apartments LP and Clover Management West Incorporated. Those are the two entities that were involved with the Granada Apartments. Granada Apartments LP is the property owner. Clover Management West Incorporated was the property manager up until December 20th of 2016. I'm sure everyone is aware, in late summer of 2016, township officials started conducting inspections of the Granada Apartments as a result of a balcony collapse earlier in the year. Those inspections identified numerous code violations of the property maintenance code as well as the fire code. Specifically, violations were found in approximately 35 of the buildings at Granada Apartments. As a result of that, a number of notices of violations were issued to both Granada Apartments LP and to Clover. In addition to that, I think approximately 13 actions were filed before the district justice in relation to some of those violations. Once those were filed, we began discussions with both Granada and Clover regarding the possibility of resolving those issues short of a proceeding before the district justice. As a bit of a background, in addition, Granada Apartments LP defaulted on their mortgage with their lender, and the property is, the lenders filed an action in federal courts seeking to enforce the mortgage terms and obtained a default judgment against them. And currently the property is scheduled for a sheriff's sale on July 21st of this year to enforce that default judgment, and we expect to have a new owner in place as a result of that sheriff's sale. So given that, and with the prospect of there not being any additional issues for either Granada Apartments LP or Clover, we negotiated a settlement with them under which let me just get the right amount and numbers here. The Granada and Clover is going to pay the township $150,000 in settlement of the township's claims for fines and costs and fees associated with the violations of the property maintenance code and the fire code. As part of that payment, a portion of that, namely $5,125, will be paid to Kearsarge Fire Department for work that they did in responding to various fire emergencies and other emergencies at the apartments that they could bill for. These were bills that were not paid by Clover Management, and in exchange, the township is withdrawing. It's going to withdraw by July 13th the violations that it has filed before the district justice, and the township would agree to release both Granada Apartments LP and Clover from any all claims associated with the violations that have been identified. There were a number of violations that we had yet filed before the district justice that would also resolve those claims. In our view, the amount being paid by Granada is I think, fair in light of the risks of litigating as you have in any case. We view it as a substantial amount in terms of the types of amounts that you see collected with respect to code violations. And so we would recommend that the supervisors would approve this settlement agreement. In addition, both Granada and Clover release the township from any claims they may have associated with the inspections or that whole process.
Okay. Comments from the board?
Well, if I could start out by acknowledging and appreciating the efforts of our fire code officials, Matt Exley and Caleb Dixon, and of course our legal counsel, Mark Shaw. This was very time consuming, and myself being a former code official building inspector, what I got to see at those properties, just going up just to go with them, just see what was going on, it was awful, was being nice about it. It's hard to believe there were people living in these units. It was really disgusting. I'm glad to see that we've got this far along here with it, and hopefully good things can happen with new owners. It's hard to tell. We'll see what happens there as that time goes on there. So anyway, are you looking for a motion or are you looking for comments?
Any other comments?
I just want to echo Mr. Grove's comments about our fire code officials in Millcreek Township are doing excellent work, doing a really great job of cleaning up these kind of properties. And hopefully this will send a message to other property owners in Millcreek that we do have high standards in our community, and we're not going to allow these kinds of conditions to persist in Millcreek Township.
And again, I'll also thank all those that were involved, our fire code officials and Attorney Shaw and his firm. This is a significant settlement. $150,000 is a big number, but there were a significant number of violations also.
Yes.
This was a significant problem, and hopefully this will now be resolved and new owners will take over and make the necessary improvements to Granada and return it to its once. It was a very popular, nice place to live.
35, 40 years ago, it was the place to be, I understand.
And hopefully that we
Really?
can see that again someday. So, Mark, do you need a motion to approve the settlement then?
Yes, and I would put one qualifier on it, and that would be I was still waiting to hear from one more person in response to this, and I guess it would be approval subject to, minor modifications of any language to non-significant terms.
But not the amount?
Not the amount, no.
Okay. Is there a motion?
Yeah, I'll move to approve that settlement agreement with Granada, with the condition that Mark had just mentioned there.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Grow?
I vote yes.
Mr. Morgan?
I vote yes.
I vote yes. And Mark, next on the agenda is also a settlement regarding the Montefiore lawsuit.
Yes, back in April of this year, Mr. Montefiore filed a lawsuit in federal court alleging that the sign ordinance that was in existence at the time was in violation of his First Amendment free speech rights. Upon receiving it, obviously we were in the process of making changes to that ordinance, and we subsequently approached the plaintiff about resolving his claim, and as a result of those negotiations, we would recommend approval of a settlement and release agreement under which the township will pay the plaintiff $15,000, which is essentially his attorney's fees, in exchange for the dismissal with prejudice of his lawsuit, as well as a release from the plaintiff for any and all claims that he raised or could have raised in that lawsuit relating to the sign ordinance. Also, as part of that settlement and release agreement, the township does not admit to any liability and vigorously denies any wrongdoing associated with the ordinance, and so we would recommend approval of that. The plaintiff has already signed the settlement agreement, and that's where we stand with that.
Dare I ask for comments from the board?
You know what? I'd like to really express my First Amendment right about both the legal counsel for the party, but I prefer not to. I'll just stay and take the mature road, take the high road on this whole thing. I think it's ridiculous. That's it.
This was an issue that was about to be resolved with our new ordinance.
Yes.
Unfortunately, someone beat us to the punch and filed a lawsuit before we were able to pass the ordinance.
In the end, our recommendation is that it's ultimately more cost-effective for the township to resolve it than it is to litigate.
As much as we may have wanted to. Yes?
The only comment I'd like to make is just generally to the public regarding our sign ordinance. Our sign ordinance, along with most municipal sign ordinances across the country, were impacted by a recent Supreme Court case. So this kind of lawsuit could be filed in nearly any municipality, probably in Erie County, and in Pennsylvania and across the nation. And we were addressing and amending our ordinance to be compliant with Supreme Court rulings during the course of this, and as Mr. McGrath said, someone beat us to the punch of amending it, and as Mr. Shaw stated, trying to fight this further would be more costly than settling, as much as I think the three of us are in agreement that we'd rather not. I'll make the motion to approve the agreement, or approve the settlement.
Sadly, I will second that.
Mr. Groh?
I vote yes.
Mr. Morgan?
I vote yes.
And I vote yes. Okay, next we have communications. First is, well, Mark, we'll see if you have anything.
No, I don't have anything further.
John, you have a couple of things there if you want to go. And
yeah, I got a
hit
couple
yours.
things here.
All right.
Yeah. Okay. First thing is this comes from Diane Lyons from HR department. This has to do with the recent police arbitration ruling, and we find that there's a state law that requires a bump in pay to the police chief. Let's see here. So I need to making a motion to approve the chief's pay from $103,000 that it currently is to $106,090. And that's an adjustment from January 1 to the present time here near the end of June. So that is my motion to ask for that permission to, not permission, but to make that salary bump as required.
So although the chief of police is not part of the collective bargaining unit,
yes,
we are required by law to
yeah, and I actually have a copy of that law too.
Provide the same benefits.
Right, yeah, and I'll just give you the Cliff Note version of it. There is a pay, it's called the Police Chief Pay Law. That's for the lack of a better term. It's an act of December 18th, 1984, Act number 204. And it just extends benefits to chiefs of police and heads of police departments, so on and so forth, talking about how their pay shall be the highest in the department itself, no matter how it's sliced. So,
Your
anyway,
motion is to make the appropriate salary adjustment for the chief.
the appropriate bump based on the recent arbitrator ruling.
Okay. Is there a second?
I will second.
Mr. Groh?
I vote yes.
Mr. Morgan?
I vote yes.
I vote yes.
Mr. Gross, to clarify, I believe it's, the chief needs to be 3% higher than the highest paid union position, is that?
I believe that's to be the correct one there, yeah. I got a copy of it here.
He's got to get the same percentage.
Same
Same percentage, yes,
Same
that's right.
percentage
Same
increase.
percentage.
They got 3%.
Everybody
They got
else.
3, so that's what it is, I'm sorry.
That's the 3%.
Yeah. Okay. Now,
4th of July?
yeah, we'll talk about the 4th of
Or
July.
you want to jump to LTAP, whatever you want to do.
Well, no, actually, what, do I have LTAP on here? I didn't have that, but,
Oh, you have the LTAP? Okay, good.
talk about the flood last week. Millcreek Township flood on June the 18th. Here's some facts, important facts for people to know. The rainfall amount that we received in a 5-hour period was 5.05 inches of rain. Just for reference, a 100-year flood, as defined by FEMA, is 5.76 inches in a 24-hour time period. So as you can see, we got almost the same amount of rain in a 5-hour period instead of a 24-hour period. So that gives you an idea of why our whole systems were taxed as much as they were. So anyway, moving on, we had from the residences that were damaged, there were 124 that were affected by it, one minor and one major damage to it. Numerous businesses impacted due to the flooding roadways and accessible buildings. I know myself on that day, I was, because I'm fire police here with the 929 team, I was directing traffic at the north end of Asbury. There were people still believing they could go through Asbury at the underpass. Just shake my head on that. We had damage ranges from 2 inches of water in the basement to 5 feet of water in the basement. 99 stormwater causes, 53 sanitary sewer causes. 2 structures were condemned due to foundation collapse, and they're both in the process of being repaired. We had 1 injury from a firefighter, received a head injury from falling from a fire engine. This was at a scene of a building collapsed on a lakefront. We had numerous agencies assisting. We had the Millcreek Township Office of Emergency Management, Millcreek Police, Streets, Sewer, Engineering, Millcreek 929 team, the Westridge Volunteer Fire Department, Lakeshore, Westlake, PennDOT, the Erie County Department of Public Safety, the Salvation Army, and the Red Cross. So we had multiple agencies, not to mention other employees that helped work at the EOP Center that we had established upstairs in the conference room. Carol Perello, Judy Zelina, Vicki Andrews, just, I can't go on and on there, but we had many people. Gary Strider, Department of Public Works. As you can see, this was a major event, and I don't know of anything we've ever had like that, of 5 inches of rain.
Well, 1996, we had more rain, but it was over a slightly longer period
of time.
This
so.
was, and you said 5 inches in 5 hours.
Yep.
I think the bulk of that 5 inches actually fell in 3 hours.
I think so, yeah.
It was even more concentrated.
Right.
I did see video of the folks in Girard and Fairview kayaking through subdivisions.
Right.
Needless to say, what folks witnessed in the city of Erie with streets and buildings being flooded.
So-
It was a bad one,
I know
yes.
this may sound like a lame excuse, but folks, our systems are not designed to handle this, as far as any sort of flooding like that. Granted, we do need some work on it. We'll talk about that in a minute or two. Anyway, moving on to something that's really nice is the fireworks, thanks to the support by Highmark Blue Cross Blue Shield, which is our major supporter, and the Giant Eagle store and Baldwin Brothers Development. The fireworks will occur here in Millcreek Township at the MYA soccer field over at 15th and Pittsburgh Avenue. This would be like directly south of the Giant Eagle store in Yorktown. The following businesses and plazas have allowed the use of their parking lots. I'm still working on another one. Right now, Yorktown Giant Eagle, West Erie Plaza parking lot, the Big Lots Plaza, Best Fitness, that's where Value Home Center, Best Fitness, the Red Boxing. I mentioned I'm checking with another business. A couple of things I want people to keep in mind, please keep this in mind. Drive slow through those parking lots. There are children, and although they may not be paying attention, nothing would be worse than have one of those kids get run over. And parents, keep your eye on your kids too, okay? It goes both ways here on this. But most of all, please do not litter in the parking lots. If you have food or anything you get, dispose of the trash the correct way. I don't need to be lecturing on that, but sometimes, I mean, we didn't have any incidents last year. It worked out very well. We're very appreciative of the businesses that have allowed the use of the parking lots. And also, if you want to patronize a business if they're open, feel free to do so. Support the local business. So that's what I have right there for that.
And as long as you're on the subject, the 4th of July parade is on the 4th of July.
Oh.
And it, I believe it kicks
Brilliant
off.
over there.
What's that?
That's brilliant.
Brilliant,
Yes.
isn't it?
It's good. Good
Great
plan.
move. The parade starts at, I believe it's 9:45.
Yep.
On Tuesday. It's always the biggest and best around, so we would urge you to participate in the 4th of July parade this coming Tuesday.
And we'll be there too.
We'll be there.
I think all three of us will be there.
Yep.
Am I correct?
Are we taking public comment at the parade, Mr. McGrath?
We don't have to remind people of that because they seem to take that upon themselves.
That's right. So,
Something happened last year that was a little humorous, but, anything else, John?
that's all I have.
I have a
Thank
couple
you.
quick things. We have a request from our Parks and Rec Director in regard to part-time help. This would be for Amber Cipoletti at a rate of $8.45, and I'll move approval of that.
Okay. I'll second that request.
Mr. Groh?
I vote yes.
Mr. Morgan?
I vote yes.
And I vote yes. And also from our HR Director, Diane Lyons, that she would like Kyle Bowden, who would be his first season in building maintenance at a rate of $7.65. I'll move approval of that.
I'll second that one.
Mr. Groh?
I vote yes.
Mr. Morgan?
I vote yes.
And I vote yes. I would ask permission from the board to attend the PSAT's quarterly meetings. This would be July 10th through the 12th, and all expenses will be paid by the State Association of Township Supervisors.
I'll second that motion.
That wasn't a motion, that was a request.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve
Okay.
that there. I was laughing at Gary out there. He's
Okay.
making faces.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Groh?
I vote yes.
Mr. Morgan?
I vote yes.
I vote yes. We had executive sessions with our solicitor on July 15th and again on July 20, June. I wrote July. June 15th and June 22nd. Thank you, Mark. And finally, from me, it's a memo from Jessica James Stutzman, our recycling coordinator. This is in regard to the International Coastal Cleanup data that shows that cigarette butts to be the #1 item picked up during their cleanup recently. And actually this was last year's cleanup, over 19,971 cigarette butts were picked up in 2016 in Erie County alone in one day. Jessica goes on to state that the DCNR, Keep Erie County Beautiful, Pennsylvania Department of Environmental Protection, Mercyhurst University, and Millcreek Township have rolled out a litter prevention program funded through the Keep Pennsylvania Beautiful. The grant program received funding for both educational publications and receptacles to be put in high traffic areas to reduce the cigarette butt litter. Some of these sites included Presque Isle Beach 1, 6, and 7, the West Pier Boat Launch, Perry Monument, Asbury Park, Scott Park, Zook Park, Veterans Park, and the Millfair Compost Recycling Center. The newest location at Presque Isle will be at Beach 10. Follow-up studies have shown that by doing this, we have realized a 57% reduction in cigarette litter. So there are going to be additional receptacles and information being circulated to try to cut down on the cigarette butt litter. And I applaud Jessica's efforts along with DCNR and the other organizations to relieve our area, particularly at Presque Isle, of some of that litter. And that's all that I have. John?
I have requests from the engineering department, Assistant Township Engineer Ann Sokol requesting for Rob Donikowski, our new Township Inspector, to attend ADA training put on by PennDOT on September 13th, 2017 in Oil City, PA from 8 a.m. to noon. She's also requesting permission for herself and Mr. Donikowski to attend another seminar on managing utility cuts put on by PennDOT in Hermitage on September 26th from 8 a.m. to noon. And I make a motion to approve that request.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Mr. Grove?
I vote yes.
Mr. Morgan?
I vote yes.
And I vote yes. That it? Anything else?
That's it from me.
That's it. Attorney Shaw?
Nothing further from me.
Cheryl? Matt? No. Citizens to be heard.
All right, that part.
Whoever wants to go first. Chief or Mr. Felix? Thank you for sticking around. I tried to move as quickly as possible. We had a lot on the agenda.
Okay, good evening. My name is Chuck Felix. I live at 2744 McKee Road. I have some remarks here, but by a couple of things that were said earlier, I want to clarify that my remarks today are only about the area of 28th and McKee. I know there was flooding in several other areas, but I haven't looked at them. I have no opinion on them. So what I'm talking about today is just that area. The second comment is Supervisor Grove mentioned the amount of rain we had Saturday is a 100-year flood. Well, 28th and McKee has been flooded 3 times this year, so I don't think we've had 3 100-year floods this year. So the township has known about this problem for a long time. I believe anybody who's been around the township knows about it. I talked to my neighbor lady just yesterday, and she said she's lived 19 years on McKee Road, and for 19 years she's been calling Millcreek supervisors and complaining about the flooding. And I myself was flooded 29 years ago. And shortly I had 6 feet of water in a finished basement. Shortly after that, I came into a township meeting and requested they put a moratorium on building until they got the infrastructure down below that could handle the runoff from all the new building. And basically I was told the township knows what it's doing and the township handles stormwater. I shouldn't be questioning their decisions. So anyhow, nothing has been done over these last 25 years to eliminate the problem. I have some maps of the area I was talking about. I'll call it the McKee Road watershed. These maps show all the drain lines within the area that drain down into that area. And I've got more if you feel free to ask for them. But it doesn't take an engineer to figure out what the problem is here. Everybody knows when you have storm sewer pipes, as they go downhill, more water comes into them. You go from 12-inch to 15 to 18 to 24 to 36. And that's exactly what happens until you get down to Route 20. And at Route 20, you have a 65-inch by 40-inch pipe that runs directly behind my house, coming from one way, and a 48-inch pipe coming from the other way, and they join together. Those 2 pipes are trying to be emptied by a 42-inch pipe. Now, I don't know if you can do a little map here. The surface area of a 48-inch pipe, and I'm sure Mr. McGrath will remember from his 10th grade geometry class, is pi r squared. The surface area of a 48-inch is 1,809 square inches of pipe that water can come out of. The other, the 65 by 40, has another 2,041 square inches, allowing this amount of water to be coming out of them pipes. The 42-inch pipe that drains it allows this amount of water. This is the scale. You have this amount of water trying to be drained by this amount of pipe. And it backs up and it floods. It's the perfect recipe for creating a flood, and that's what happens. The township has built that whole area up and built a beautiful storm sewer system that handles it with nowhere to go. And I've heard that PennDOT will not allow a bigger culvert to be put in because it'll just move the flooding downstream. There's not the infrastructure down there to handle. If we put a 6-foot culvert in under 26th Street, we're just gonna move the flooding down to the other side of 26th Street. But the problem is, it never should have been built in the first place. If you didn't have the outflow pipe, it never should have been built in the first place. And I'm not saying this group of people or engineers did that. A lot of this happened 20, 30, 40 years ago. But in the last 30 years that I know of, nothing's been done to fix it. And it's time that Millcreek take ownership of a problem they created by building all that infrastructure up above McKee there, all the way up past 38th Street. And they created all this drainage to come to one point with not enough room to get out. Millcreek Township has created this flooding. And I think it's time to take ownership of it and the damage it does. And now I kind of took a little bit of heat off you, saying some of this has been done 20, 30, 40 years ago, but to put it right back on you, there's a huge vacant 5-acre lot sitting there at the old YWCA building that was for sale. That could have been a huge retaining system there. But no, Millcreek didn't buy it and put a retaining system in. They gave a building permit, and now that 5 acres is almost entirely building and parking lot, which runs off 100% right into the same system.
Chuck, if I could just interrupt 1 second.
Sure.
When that property that you're talking about was developed, which was fairly recently in the last 2 years,
right.
That would have been required, and Matt, I'll look to you for some assistance here, to do extensive stormwater management. Our more recent stormwater ordinances require any development to handle their stormwater on site. So does it increase the flows? Yes. It does not, what has to be controlled is the rate. So it has to be reduced, am I correct? Yes. It has to be reduced, or it has to be accommodated, the stormwater has to be accommodated on site. Now, what you're referring to for previous developments, south of that, absolutely. That was before stormwater management was legislated, and we did not have the ability to control stormwater prior to, I believe it's 1994, was it?
Mr. Chairman, I don't believe the gentleman's arguing that that development is causing more stormwater. I think his argument is that it would have been an opportunity for another
yes, I
detention basin to be.
I am arguing that
yes.
You ask
Both.
anyone who lives along that 28th Street corridor, it used to flood once, 28th Street used to flood once every 3 or 4 years on extremely heavy rain. Then it become, since that's been built, we get flooded 2, 3, 4, 5 times a year now since that's been built. And to further reiterate that, I was just last night, I walked over to that retention area. The dirt marks on the bushes around it are 1.5 feet higher than the retention area. Once that filled up, it was 100% runoff, no retention at all.
Well, the retention, Matt, would have been required to handle a 100-year event?
Yes, and beyond the pond that you can see, there is underground detention under a big portion of that. You know, there are underground storage.
I can tell you that was full too.
Oh, I'm sure it was. I mean,
so once those structures fill up, what was a 5 acres of grass field that would absorb rain became a sheet of parking lot and building that was putting 100% of the rainfall into our backyards and into our basements.
Well, I think that we could probably dispute some of that regarding the new development. What we don't dispute is the fact that the pipes leading into that 42-inch pipe underneath Route 20 is, the pipe under Route 20 is undersized. It's too small for what flows.
Was built.
Right. We have had discussions with PennDOT last week, and I think that we are finally, after several discussions with PennDOT, making some progress. We spoke with Mr. Pettit, and one of his representatives met with our township engineer on site. They are looking at options for possibly putting a second pipe under Route 20, something that would handle the additional flows. The issue, like you correctly stated, is downstream. What's going to happen when all that water hits downstream? There is a significant amount of undeveloped land north of Route 20, south of the railroad tracks. Some of that is wetlands. Some of it is just simply field that is undeveloped. Our discussion with Mr. Pettit was, would that property be available then for stormwater detention? So if we allowed those flows underneath Route 20, could it then be stored downstream before it created any additional problems along the railroad tracks or even north of the railroad tracks? So that is all being considered by the township and PennDOT right now. We've made more progress in the last week than we did in the 3 years previous to that.
And that's not to say we haven't made overtures to PennDOT to try and solve this problem.
Right.
Unfortunately, it took this
what
recent event to put the onus on them to actually, if I'm not mistaken, Brian, we have had this conversation.
Oh, yes, we've had this conversation multiple times with PennDOT.
Kind of disappointing. I mean, the news was all over the neighborhood shortly after the event. My neighbors were on TV. I even got my 5 seconds of fame. Business owners from these restoration companies, who I didn't see on TV is any of you guys. You guys you have to admit that Millcreek Township built too much for what that 42-inch can handle. And there's a responsibility there. Now, if I come and say I want damages, which I did, I'm told that Millcreek is not going to pay damages, which if that's your position, get out there and tell people, because there's a lot of different stories going around, what can do, what you can't do, who's going to pay, who isn't going to pay. You guys, it seems like you're kind of staying in the background and letting it go by, where you could get out there and say, okay, this is Millcreek's position, this is what's happened, this is how we're working to fix it, and this is our position on damages. If none of you guys are willing to get out there and make it the public, like I said, I believe that the Millcreek Township is causing this flooding, has caused, and like I said, not just what's happened in the last 2 years or 5 years, some of it's 10 and 20 years old, that's come to this. But I believe they've caused it and therefore should take ownership of some of it. A lot of us property owners
If I
have
can
lost
jump back
thousands
in
of
here,
dollars.
Chuck, since I've been here, in the 23 plus years I've been here, we have constructed 6 regional detention basins at a cost of tens of millions of dollars to the township. Very large detention basins that have done a lot of good. If that storm would have hit without those 6 detention basins, I can't imagine what the damage would have been. The basin at intermediate school had, I don't know how many feet of water. It was a tremendous amount. I think it overtopped the overflow. So again, that's built for a 100-year storm, and that overtopped. The basin down at where Powell Avenue is rerouted. It used to be called the Riviera Estates. Huge amount of water in there. Basin up off of Zook Road. Again, we've built these big basins in an attempt to retrofit, because prior to, and I'll go back to, I think it was, I don't know, 1990 maybe it was, when the first stormwater management ordinances came into the township, the controls were very, very limited. It was a matter of let's get the water out of here as fast as we can, and didn't take into account what it was doing downstream. So we've tried to retrofit with these stormwater detention basins. You referenced, why didn't we build one on 26th Street? We have built them where we were able to acquire property and put in large basins.
Okay, well, I appreciate, and I'm not trying to imply that you're not doing anything, turning a blind eye to everything. But when I started my points, I think I said this is only talking about the area on 28th and McKee, and I'm sure that those basins have saved a lot of flooding in other areas. But the area that I'm talking about has not been touched. Last thing, and I will say, you can go up and down 28th Street if you guys want to get out in the public and talk to the people. Every one of them will tell you that the flooding is more often and more severe than it's ever has been, especially in the last 2 or 3 years. What's changed in the last 2 or 3 years? That medical center was built. And it was built with a building permit, I'm sure, that could have been denied, or Millcreek could have gotten a hold of the property.
Matt, was that development, was the stormwater management plan for that development approved? Was it designed to our specifications?
Yes.
Was it built to specifications, or was it not?
Well, you can tell me, you can show me all the calculations you want, but I'll tell
Well, legally,
you,
that's
I'll
the
tell
only
you,
recourse we have.
You're walking up and down every house on 28th Street between McKee and the cul-de-sac at the end, and every one of those homeowners will tell you the flooding is worse now than it's ever been. and it's increased the last couple of years.
Matt, would you
We've
answer the
had 3
question,
floods
please?
this year on 28th Street.
I will say that the township has experienced some significant high-intensity rain events in the last few years that we have not seen in years previous. Those do impact, the flooding, especially in areas like this. Your chart was, very accurate. In areas where the drainage is restricted, the water will come up fast in a high-intensity event, and then it will disappear as the rain subsides and the water goes away.
Yeah,
Those are the
Like I said.
impactful storms that
The challenge,
exacerbate a situation like
the
this.
challenge that you have is that the ordinance is designed based on, certain standards. And so all of the basins and so forth are built on a 24-hour storm, which is the standard that's used and was adopted in Pennsylvania. So when they're not really necessarily designed for these short-term, high-intensity rainfalls, because you don't expect them as often, to construct what you would need necessarily to handle 5 inches in 3 hours is frankly prohibitive.
I understand. And I'd like to say, I'm not here to say that anybody's doing it bad, that you're not doing your job or you're not doing your job. But I'm just here to bring the attention to an area that needs immediate attention.
And
it's been 29 years since my last flood, and not one thing to improve that drainage situation has been done, and it's time that something is done about it.
I agree with it. Yeah, I agree with it, Chuck. And here's the thing that I'll just throw it out for a step further. And I'm by no means am I being sarcastic. I think we need to spend some money. And how we get that money, I don't know. Would it be a tax increase? Keep in mind, we've had many, many years of development that went uncontrolled without any stormwater management. We have another gentleman out here. I know that he's going to be talking about his property because that did not have stormwater management. He had above his property, but it comes down into his subdivision there. The fact is, we need to take some very serious action on this. This is something that we as a government are supposed to do to protect the health, safety, and welfare of the public. So I think you have a total agreement, I think, among all of us, and there's no disagreement with you. It's just a matter of how this gets done. And that's the question there. Do any of us have the guts to raise taxes or to float a stormwater fee?
We've done it before. We've done it multiple times before to pay for this stormwater improvements that we had to do.
Right. Now, this was a very unusual incident that we had there. I think we all agree on that. I gave you the numbers. I also saw something on the weather yesterday or over the weekend. It doesn't matter what day I saw it. But if I understood this correctly, we're already 9 inches over the average of rainfall for the year.
Yeah.
This is what they're tracking. And they say, hey, we're 9 inches more already.
I understand, but I was flooded heavily in 88, heavily.
I understand.
In 96, I was flooded again.
Mm-hmm. September 17th, everybody was flooded.
Yeah.
Yes, and here I'm flooded. So 3 times in the last 30 years that my house has been flooded.
Mm-hmm.
And you're telling me they're designed for 100-year floods, but it's been 3 times in the last 30 years.
So
that sounds more like a 10-year flood to me.
That's just the standard. We're just going by what the experts tell us.
Yeah, that's not what we call it. That's just the terminology used for the storm.
But like I said, 28th Street has been flooded 3 times this year. And that's gonna, it's not like it's gonna happen once every 5 or 10 or 15 years. It's happening 3, 4, 5 times a year. And I appreciate you guys listening to me, and we just have to get some movement on this in this area.
We will keep you updated as we have further discussions with PennDOT, and your neighborhood will keep them updated because it directly impacts them. I suggested to Mr. Pettit that maybe we have a neighborhood meeting to discuss just
we're having neighborhood meetings.
well, just what PennDOT proposes and how we can improve the situation.
Well, and I'll just add that, the stats that Mr. Groh spoke of earlier with the houses that's because those folks were in contact with the township. So the township has been in contact with the folks in that neighborhood, have heard the concerns, have investigated the problems, and I don't want folks to get the wrong impression that we don't care. I mean, there are investigations that have happened, and the folks that, I believe Mr. Rath had some backups due to sewer backups.
Yes.
There are some cleanup work and some claims the township does pay.
For sanitization, that's right.
Mm-hmm.
And that, you know, it gets obviously a lot more complicated when you talk about the storm sewers running over into the sanitary sewers.
That's right.
And then the sanitary sewers back
up into the basement.
So is it the sanitary problem or is it a storm sewer problem? And it gets very involved, but it has to be addressed. You can't flood out a whole neighborhood 2, 3, 4 times a year. This township has more money, enough money to do something to repair this. And if you have to get PennDOT involved, you have to get our own crews involved, whatever. But like I said, it doesn't take an engineer to see what the problem is. You got a lot of water flowing into a pipe that cannot handle it, causes a backup, causes a flood. It's going to continue to happen. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chuck. Appreciate it.
Bill?
Shush. Sorry, Bill.
Yeah.
It's all yours.
Yeah.
On the 18th, like everybody else, I flooded. It was my 32nd flood. And I only count floods when they get about, this deep. Like last Friday, I flooded, but it was only 3 or 4 inches. I don't include that. But it rains, I flood. And the last time I was here in April, I complained, and the crew came up to put the manhole cover back on, because there's so much pressure it blows off every time. But one of the guys went down in the sewer. He goes, "Hey, here's the problem. The line's blocked." So a couple of weeks after that, they came up and they dug that line, opened it up. The only thing, it's only this big. That's all the bigger, 5, maybe 6 inches. And this line drains a whole cul-de-sac. There's 8 or 10 homes, 3 catch basins, and that all goes into that. That's why I'm flooding. I flooded, my garage filled up with water this time. And for the first time in 32 floods, water went into my pool. Well, I can't let the pool overflow because that comes in the basement. So I had to dump 5,000 gallons of water. Then I had to rebuy the 5,000 gallons of water and replace it. But because I bought the water, I'm going to be charged on my sewer bill for dumping 5,000 gallons in the sewer, which I did. I put it in the storm sewer. Now, this flows past my driveway continually when it blows. 32 feet of my driveway is washed out. I'm going to have it replaced. It's cracked, it's fallen down. Now, there is a solution. There used to be a creek there, and when they put the storm sewer in, or the basin, they put this little dinky pipe in instead of this huge creek bed. The crew up there said if they could dig that out, but they're going to have to cut down some trees now because, it's 35 years it's been sitting there. But if they could do that, it would work. It would be tremendous.
You're talking, Bill, you're talking parallel to 2-lane?
Pardon?
You're talking parallel to 2-lane that runs east over to Hidden?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, the creek used to come down and then go, well, they just covered it up with that little, and
It opens up again when it gets over behind the houses on near Hidden.
Between Hidden and Patio.
Right.
There's another tube that comes down from 38th Street. It's about this big, but ours isn't this big. That's what's, you just can't take all the water. I raked 3 garbage cans full of crap out of the sewer dropped in my yard. This included golf balls that somebody's taken from the range, broken beer bottles. It's coming out of the sewer. I don't know, maybe the sewer's, plugging up and then lets loose, but it's getting, it's going to start costing a lot of money. And I moved in there 48 years ago, and they tried to put in that subdivision, and the engineer from the township at that time would not approve it, and he blocked that for about 10 or 12 years. He wouldn't. Then when he retired, boom, they put it right in. And what he predicted is happening right now. So I don't know, I've talked to Rick. Rick's been great. I talked to him Friday. I called him about 5 to 12 when it was raining. He goes, is it flooding now? And I go, yep. And it was. I got pictures of all this if you want to see them, just show I'm not, goofy.
He kept us abreast.
He kept us abreast, yes, and he kept us abreast of what was happening up
Want to
there.
see any of the pictures?
After the meeting, if you want to show us, sure. Rick has made some preliminary suggestions about how, and one of them is.
Well, it's
run-
already there, just got to be cleaned out.
No, I mean the open ditch that would run from behind your house over to the big ditch.
It's already there.
Well, it's not very defined. It's,
All we got to do is clean it out and it's ready to go.
it would have to be pretty good size. And
Well, the one that would join is the same size now.
yes,
It used to be equal to it, but they let it, fill in. But there's some trees that are, they're gonna be considerable.
it would take some work and an easement, but I think that's probably what's going to have to end up happening.
Well, the trees that would have to be cut are on my next door neighbor's property, and he's flooding too. I mean, his basement's always filling
This is
up.
the municipal.
He allowed the township to bring a digger in when they worked
Probably
on it
not.
a couple weeks ago. So, that's no problem, but if that could be cleaned out, I could live with a little water, but not, I mean, it gets deep.
Mhm.
And, it's gonna get expensive replacing all this stuff. So, thank you.
All right, thank you, Chief. Anyone else? Gary, you're all that's left.
We got another gentleman over there, too.
Okay, yeah, another gentleman.
Okay.
All right, if not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn at 8:52. We're adjourned.
You're watching the Millcreek Government Channel, powered by WQLN Public Media.